Alrighty, folks, welcome to Living Free in Tennessee, where we talk about building the life you choose on your terms. Today is Friday, June 9th, 2023, and this is right. This is Try Two. Welcome to Living Free in Tennessee, where we talk about building the life you choose on your terms. Today is Friday, June 9th, 2023. This is episode 758 of Living Free in Tennessee. And I'm not in my home studio, guys. Spoiler alert. I am operating off my laptop. You're getting laptop audio without my studio mic because I'm on the road. I'm helping a friend go through their pantry and we're reorganizing some things. And this is something that even the best pantry managers in the whole world, every so often we need to go through and make sure the mustard is with the mustard and things like that. And sort of our dietary needs change over time. So we need to adjust what we're storing. And this is one of those things that I find is way better, way better when you have a friend help you do it, because there are two of you there to do things and somebody can fetch stuff. And so when my friend said she was ready to do this to her pantry, and she's been a very good friend to me, I was like, I'll come down and do that. So you can see behind me, different background. I am in Florida and I didn't see any alligators on my walk this morning, so I was super disappointed. But maybe I will before I leave. We'll see. Anyway, today we're going to talk about the newest forage in the Holler, injuries on the homestead, and garden success. That's what we're going to talk about today. Today, more importantly than any other day, if you're on the live stream, want to get a question in, make sure that it's in all caps. The whole thing has to be in all caps, not just one word, because I can't really see anything because I'm on a screen this big. It's like tiny little screen. And I've got it split in half with show notes on one side and video on the other. So if you want my attention, it's got to be all caps. I'll star it. And then at the end, I'll go through and answer the questions. With that, I want to talk about our featured event of today's show, and that's the chicken processing, the 6th annual chicken processing workshop at the Holler Homestead. That's right. We've had 5 of them in the past. We've got number 6 coming up June 24th, where we will show you how to process chickens. You will go home with your chicken. We'll talk to you about how to cook pasture-raised chickens. These are soy-free, organically fed birds on pasture in a chicken tractor. We're going to show you that setup. We're going to talk about how much money we invested in the birds, just so you know the cost of that. You'll be able to check out the Holler roost and the baby ducks and the other baby chicks we're raising for egg birds. And I even had somebody say, I need to know how to process chickens and rabbits. So I'm going to see if Nighthawk will do a rabbit demo. We don't have rabbits for folks to process, but we can certainly show you how to process a rabbit while we're at it. We've got a number that are getting processed in the near future. So not a problem at all. It's going to be a really fun day. You go home with a guide to poultry processing that I wrote with Mama Sauce and with Feed Ya. We're going to have pulled pork enchiladas and chili and sides, and it's going to be great. We do set up our food so that if you have a gluten, dairy, or nut allergy or soy allergy, you can't necessarily, but you can certainly eat to your fill. I mean, like if you're allergic to dairy, don't eat the mac and cheese. Also gluten. Gluten and dairy, not good there. But we have other sides. We have coleslaw that's totally soy-free, dairy-free, and it's delicious. And it'll be a fun day. Chef Brett Corriere is also teaching that class with me. We make a pretty good team. June 24th, livingfreeintennessee.com to grab your tickets. I have 4 seats left right now. I also want to thank today's show sponsors. Our first sponsor today is Discount Mylar Bags. I have been working with Toby from Discount Mylar Bags for a long time. And in fact, I saw him in person this weekend. And he reached out to me early on in Holler Roast's life to help me source my coffee bags for less. And he ended up buying a ton of them. I just found out that there are only 6 boxes left. So I need to think about what that means for Holler Roast coffee. But he also has an excellent resource for anybody interested in food storage. They've got a whole line of Mylar bags. He's got resources at discountmylarbags.com on how to store food for long-term storage safely, and what stores well and what doesn't, and methods, and what size bag you should use. Definitely worth checking out just to learn that stuff. That's discountmylarbags.com. Our second sponsor of today's show is freesteading.com. This is a social network put together by folks who were tired of being, well, silenced by the algorithms of the big players. They put together freesteading.com for homesteaders, freedom-oriented people. It's a freedom of speech platform. When you go there, sign up. You will not see anything until you start following some people. So join the Living Free in Tennessee community, follow everybody there, and from there you'll just see other communities you can sign up for. Spags has a pretty good active page, and they put some funny stuff out. Check that out all over at freesteading.com. With that, it's time for our first segment of today's show, and that is forage. This is what we're finding out and about in the holler. Bee balm is blooming. It's a lot of bees in that phrase, isn't it? Anyway, bee balm is blooming, and those flowers are great for collecting for teas for the winter, but they're also just beautiful red flowers. They look good in a bouquet, and I was really excited to see they're blooming. We go through a cycle of them blooming, and then that's it for the year. But they take over like mint, which is great. So I'm going to it's the wrong time of year to do this. I'm still going to do it because it's like a mint and it behaves like a mint, and it's in the mint family, and it's really hard to kill unless you just don't water it. I'm going to move some around while I know where they are. And I have an interesting thing going on with my bee balm, whereas bee balm and Jerusalem artichokes are kind of all in the same place. And I'm really keen to see in that epic plant head-to-head fight who wins. We'll see. Lemon balm and mint are in high production. I've been harvesting chocolate mint for winter teas, and we're going to be full of chocolate mint this year. It really took over everything, and I'm very happy about that because I like chocolate mint. We've got elderflower blooming, and elderflower here's something I've never done with it that everybody tells me to do. You bread it and you fry it. You make elderflower fritters. Also not happening this year because I am not eating any grains right now. So there you go. That is what it is. But the elderflowers are blooming, and I was talking to Tactical before I left town, and he's like, you better show me what you don't want me to whack down because I'm about to whack some stuff down. And I was like, well, don't hit the elderberry patch because it's an elderberry patch and does not need to be whacked down. And he asked me where, because there are some elderberry coming up in the pond area. He's like, those? And I was like, I don't care about the pond area. I'm not going down into the pond and like climbing over the rocks to get the elderberries when I have a perfectly accessible patch right by Sage's grave. Honeysuckle is blooming, and it's fun just to like bite the ends off of those and suck on it. It tastes sweet in your mouth. Oh, look at you. 30-day reviews wrote in all caps so I can actually see what he's saying. Thank you so much. Guys, I'm on a tiny computer today. If you want me to see your stuff, you better put the whole thing in all caps. Just a reminder there. So honeysuckle, also you can make honeysuckle jelly out of it, for example, and it's very cool. Next, we have jewelweed. I've been watching the jewelweed grow, but I haven't brought it up. So jewelweed, you can make into a salve or use directly on poison ivy, and it helps make that rash go away. If you know you've been exposed to poison ivy, you can wash yourself and then rub it on you before you get it. It's supposed to work preventatively. And usually you will find it growing next to poison ivy. They're like plants that complement each other. Best time to harvest it is right as the flowers start coming on. Harvest the leaves and make a salve out of that fresh rather than drying it first. That's your best success with a salve from jewelweed. So that they have just like a few of them have started blooming, and that means that we will be making salve if we're going to make salve this year. So what usually happens now is I go out of town for the weekend this weekend when the jewelweed is harvestable, and then the county mower comes before I get back and I miss my window. So hopefully that does not happen. We will see what happens. I also saw a bunch of Queen Anne's lace around. Now, Queen Anne's lace can interfere with your carrot seed saving. Like the cross-pollination from that will mess up your carrots. But it's very beautiful flower. It does well in a bouquet. And the thing about it is, if you're not well versed in what it looks like and what poison hemlock looks like, they are both blooming right now. To me, they look completely different, right? They look completely different. And So I was confused when people said that they couldn't tell the difference. And then I was driving, and I like, plants go by quickly when you're driving, and I saw a patch of Queen Anne's lace, and I was like, is that poison hemlock or is that Queen Anne's lace? And I was like, that's why. So when you don't get a really good look at it, you just will not know. So I'll be putting a video out later this week about just showing Queen Anne's lace and showing poison hemlock, so you can kind of see the difference. They are a very different plant to each other once you see it. And the thing about poison hemlock is if you consume, 5-6 leaves of it, it can kill you, which is not good. If you eat its roots, it can kill you. Now, I don't go around eating Queen Anne's lace either. So that's not really the problem. The problem is when you are handling poison hemlock, some people have a skin sensitivity to the fluids in the stalks, and it kind of gets big and weedy. And if it's in your yard, a lot of people will just go at it and then wonder why they've burned themselves. And what's happened is they've gotten hit by basically the sap of the plant. So it's good to know which one's which, because if you don gloves and stuff and are a little bit more careful with it, you will end up okay. Yeah, somebody says yarrow is blooming right now too. Exactly. So that would be, I wonder if I have any yarrow in the holler. I'll have to go look. Wild raspberries are ripe, and the coyotes are eating it based on the scat I saw. I have only just eaten some off the plants. I haven't gone out and harvested them. I'm going to go look on the sheep pasture where they grow up there and just see if any of them are second year cane, which then will have berries. We have some patches on the Holler homestead. I'd like to get a quart or two of those in the freezer, but if I don't, it is what it is. And then lamb's quarter this week I've been putting on salads. In about another week, it's going to be too big to be useful for me. So at that point, it'll be, time for it to propagate itself and make seeds, and then it's tough and doesn't taste as good. So those are the things that we're getting off the land this week. Next, we're going to talk about livestock. I don't have a big section today for livestock because it's sort of like we're maintaining the status quo right now. And we do have the ducks in duck jail, which required wing clipping, which we did. And it took about a week and a half of putting the ducks in duck jail for the ducks to stay in duck jail, because they kept finding ways to get out of duck jail. And you may wonder, what is duck jail? Duck jail is when we close in the yard in front of their coop and don't let them free range. And the reason we do this is they start laying eggs all over the yard in weird places, especially around this time of year. Then they go broody. And that's not bad, except for that a nest that's out in the yard and not protected could have problems with coyotes. And we have a coyote roaming the holler, so that's all part of the stuff. So we close them in the yard so they get back in the habit of laying their eggs in the duck coop. And when that happens, and they've done it for about a week, we let them free range again. We start by letting them out late in the afternoon, and then sort of from there they just free range again. And we were pleased to note yesterday that the ducks actually stayed in duck jail. So right now I'm getting about 3 duck eggs a day. Part of that is probably age of the flock. I don't think the Muscovies are laying right now, and then we get this one random chicken egg every so often. She's really old, but she'll go put one in the pile of duck eggs every so often. On that note, I'm incubating more duck eggs. So we got 9 ducks from the last time we incubated, and they appear to all be females still. Nobody has shown any signs of being male. And so I think I have 9 females, which is great because that's 9 egg-laying ducks. So we're going to try a second round and see what we get the second time. They're in the incubator. Hopefully when Tactical sees this, he remembers to check the humidity level of the incubator. If not, I'll remind him later. But we'll be candling those probably when I get back from this trip and just see which eggs are looking like they have started. And I know the Holler neighbors down the road want to see what that looks like. So I will totally check out. I'll invite them over when we do the candling of the first round of candling, so they can kind of see how we choose if an egg is viable or not. And I usually check them after about a week, and then I give them 2 weeks just in case, because sometimes you miss stuff. But after a week, you can usually see there's veins, and there's a little black speck that's the eye that's moving. It's really kind of a cool thing. The next segment is grow. This is where we talk about the food we're growing on the homestead, mostly the plant food, right? Brassicas. So you guys know that I have had a very bad relationship with that family of vegetables, which is cabbage and cauliflower and broccoli, because they bolt, they get pests in the spring, and people who are most successful with them in Tennessee tend to do them as a fall crop. Well, this year we've done okay. We had one of those springs where the cool hung on a lot longer than we thought it would, which the brassica family loved. And then I started getting cabbage worms about 2 weeks ago, and they're kind of eaten up, but I got heads of broccoli, which is super exciting. I haven't gotten any cauliflower yet. And then the cabbages are starting to head out, which is cool. But right now they're like the size of a baseball. I'm hoping they'll get a little bigger than that. But with the cabbage worms, the problem is the cabbage worms will come in, they will replicate themselves, which means reproduce would probably have been a more clear word about that, and eat the whole plant. And then there's no cabbage for anybody. So I was listening to the Survival podcast, and Jack Spirko had somebody on who was talking about biochar, and he talked about using wood vinegar to deter pests. And so I didn't make my own. I bought some from this guy because I was like, this is so valuable. I'm just going to give him some of my money. And the package came with a little dropper that you can measure how many milliliters it is. It comes with clear instructions on if you're using this for pest or disease control, this concentration. If you're doing a soil drench to encourage the biology of the soil, you do this lighter drench. And they recommend that you mix it with Dawn so that the substance gets absorbed into the plant. And they answered a question that had not been answered on Jack's podcast, which was, if you put it on a plant that requires pollinators, are you keeping the pollinators away? And it says, if your plant is flowering, best not to use this. So that tells me that it deters the pollinators as well. So I applied it to the brassicas because I need 0 pollinators in any of the production of any of the stuff from that. Does not matter. I'm not saving seed from those. I'm just wanting it to produce cabbage heads and cauliflower heads and broccoli heads, because we're getting secondary broccoli heads now. And then I put it on all my greens, like the salads and the greens that are starting to get hit. And I did not spray it on the peas. I put it on my squash plants because they are nowhere near flowering yet. I've got another 3 weeks until they flower. And this is about when we start getting squash bugs and other things that take those out. And then I also put it on my herbs, which I don't need to have reproduce their seeds. And I looked at my tomatoes and they were flowering, and I was like, we won't put it on the tomatoes. And I didn't put it on the green beans. I put it on green beans that just came up, that I just planted like a week ago. But the ones that I planted first are probably flowering right now. They looked like they were going to put out flowers when I left town yesterday. So we probably have some flowers there. And then next thing that happens is we start getting green beans. So I just spot applied it, and we'll see how that goes. I'll let you know if that in fact deals with the cabbage worm problem. And if not, it is what it is, right? I did my best. Lettuce is doing well in the upper garden. The lettuce I had in my lower aquaponics system has run its course. It aged out, and I didn't do a second planting of that because I'm growing peppers and some other stuff up there, and I wanted to make room for them. I'm still getting peas. I have not successfully gotten peas. I mean, I always get a handful of peas, but I've had like a good 3 weeks of pea production. And I'm excited about that because I like peas. And when I get home, there will probably be more peas. The Swiss chard is banging this year. I'm putting nasturtium flowers and leaves in our salads. The radishes I have a second crop of radishes. Like, I've already gone through my first crop. We're in the second crop of radishes. I have more radish seeds. I have to decide if I want to get a third crop of those. Basil is being harvested now, and I integrate it into stir fries and salads. There's not enough for me to preserve it yet. The sage, I've already harvested my first round of sage to dry for the winter. Oregano is almost up to my like mid-thigh in the food forest. And I should go out and cut that and dry that, but I haven't done that yet. I'll probably do that when I get home, in my spare time. I'm home for 4 days. I'm out of town again. So we'll see how that goes. And then I've got thyme everywhere. So the thyme did really well overwintering, and it's ready to be dried as well. Garlic is close to harvest. I'm going to be testing that when I get home. In some areas, the scapes are all gone, and usually about 2 weeks after I harvest to 3 weeks after I harvest the scapes, I get the garlic. I just need to see if it's bulbed out. And then once that's out, I have the garlic patch. I can plant other things there. So I have to decide if I'm putting green beans in, if I'm doing more peppers up there, or what. I don't know what I want to plant there right now. So I have to make that decision. I probably will prioritize green beans because I like eating green beans. And I may leave some space in that area for fall garden. So we'll see. The cucumbers are starting to climb the trellis, which is perfect. They also got some wood vinegar on them for pest control and disease control. I got my first ripe tomato of the season, and it was not mine. I mean, I have little cherry tomatoes coming from my inside plant, but like one every other week. So not a high volume of cherry tomatoes. And I was at the farmer's market, and one of the farmers, they played the early tomato game and they won that lottery. So we have had a tomato. I have one tomato left from that pile of tomatoes when I get back. And it was really nice to just have like a sliced tomato, salted with a balsamic vinegar on it. And then I diced up some basil leaves on that the other night. It was delicious. The tomato wall is doing great, and it's putting out suckers, which, tomatoes that vine, you just want to encourage the vine or two vines off of one plant. And if you don't, and they put out they'll vine and then they'll put out this other offshoot vine between the leaf that's coming off the stem and the actual vine. And I like to pinch those off with my thumb because I'm training them up to go tall. I don't want them to go out. I've heard mixed results on if it's really necessary for best production to get rid of the suckers. The other thing you can do with suckers, though, is pinch them off and root them and make new plants out of them. I don't have a need to do that right now, although I may want to get a second wave of tomato plants in about another 5 weeks. So we may, in about another 2 weeks, get a set of 10 or so and root them. I'll see. I'll talk to Tactical about if we want to mess with that. And then this is big news for the Holler. I got carrots this year. And where I got carrots, so we did a homestead boot camp with a lady named Mary who came out, and she wanted to know how to put garden beds in, what we're doing to manage the sheep and some other things. And so she spent about a day and a half with us just sort of working on the homestead. And one of the things we did was turn the garlic patch into a garden bed for the next year, because I rotate where the garlic goes. And we did that by hand turning it with a fork, putting manure down and rabbit manure and duck litter, and layering cardboard and chips and leaves and all sorts of stuff to go lasagna style. It's not the official lasagna list of layers, because when I do it, I just layer with what I have. And then I just left it that way for the whole summer. I think we did it in August. So the end of summer, the fall into the winter. And then I planted all my midwinter stuff that I planted, which is the peas and the onions and the carrots, all there. And I had radishes there too. So that turned out really well. It has supported the plants really well, basically disease free. I haven't had a lot of pest pressure there. I didn't have to till or anything. The soil was nice and soft. I think in the future, I probably will go to wood chip Mecca in the winter and put more wood chips on it. That was the one regret I had, is I felt like the duck litter, which is pine shavings, it doesn't break down super quickly, and it breaks down faster if you have a layer of wood mulch on top of it, and then you get better soil. But that's where the carrots grew. The soil was soft, and that my carrots are about 6 inches long, so they're not the biggest carrots in the world, but I'm not sad about that. I harvested one of them, and I looked at the rest, and I thought I'll get to you later, because they can still go a little bit longer right now. And then we'll have 2 bunches of carrots out of this. I threw a packet of carrot seeds out, broadcast with my hand on a whim. And I'm like, if you grow, you grow. I didn't actually try to do, intensive planting of carrots. And I will probably do another set of those September 1st in the fall garden just to see if I get a fall crop of carrots. Next up, we have Holler Neighbors and Community. This is where we talk about Holler Neighbors. And I am going to be dropping a car off to Jenny, who is a Holler neighbor, next week from Tennessee. So that's going to take a lot of driving. That means the Homestead Happenings podcast next week will either be a replay or I will have pre-recorded it. It won't be live on YouTube. So it'll be on the audio podcast. And if you have never downloaded the audio podcast and you want to keep up on what's going on in the homestead, go to livingfreeintennessee.com, and that has the RSS feeds you can subscribe to if you want to listen to the audio podcast, or any audio, like any podcatcher on your phone basically plays the podcast, except for Amazon, who doesn't believe I'm me. So we're having an argument about that right now. Anyway, but if you just get Fountain FM, find Living Free in Tennessee, and you can just play it straight from that app, and you can earn sats while you're doing it. We also have set up a fundraising website for Jenny. We're going to be doing an auction, an online auction, and it's at Jenny Hill, JENNIHILL .livingfreeintennessee.com. If you want to check it out, we're collecting donations from different people. And then we're going to do on June 2nd, I believe it is, we're going to be doing a 4-hour sort of telethon thing with people coming on and just explaining what Jenny has given to the community. And people can bid on those things. Some of them are digital, some of them are shippable. It just depends. I'm going to put a coffee of the month in there. I haven't yet. And we're adding a mega pass to Self-Reliance Festival. I haven't filled out the form for that yet. But if you're interested in donating to the auction, you can fill out the form at jennyhill.livingfreeintennessee.com. And definitely think about if you want to come to the 4-hour live stream. I'm doing it with Toolman Tim Cook. It'll be pretty fun. Next up, we're talking about infrastructure at the Holler Homestead. And really what's been happening in the last few weeks is that we are, well, by we, I mean tactical, is reshaping, just sort of choosing areas to reshape the hills a little bit or add water calming features in to keep more of the rainwater in the soil and on the land when it rains. We are in the middle of, it's not really a drought, but a dry spell right now where it hasn't rained for weeks. And that's not typical for Tennessee, but I think we are going through a dry time right now. And so we've been watering things, and keeping more of the water on the property is really important, I think. So we're just looking at how the water flows and then what we can do to make the soil better at retaining moisture, because the soil got pretty compacted when we did the earthworks. So now we're working on undoing that. And that's really where the concentration has been in the last few weeks. Our final segment today is finances. This is where we talk about money on the homestead, and the hip camp is working. I've got somebody who is hopefully booking today. They're going to come this weekend and camp on their way from one city to another. And the only issue we've run into is I'm having some glitches with the hip camp website on getting this booking done. But I told the person, I was like, listen, just know that you can come here, even if I have to tell you my address manually. I'd rather go through hip camp because I'm not supposed to go around hip camp. But if your tool is not letting them book a single night, then I got to do what I got to do, right? So I had it originally set up Fridays and Saturday nights are two night minimums for weekend. And they want one night. And I'm like, I don't have anybody booked anyway, so I might as well book for one night. And so I changed it in the system to one night, like took away the 2-night minimum. And it on my dashboard, it says that there's no that it's 1 night minimum, right? When you try to book it, and I tried to book it, it still says you need 2 nights. So something's up with that. I've already put in a support ticket. Hopefully they address that issue. But I think it's nice when you have a homestead like mine that has been used for events. So we have an outdoor shower. We have some infrastructure in place to add a little bit of money to the kitty by allowing hip campers to come through or other people to rent that space, because it's already set up in that way. That's the update from the Homestead Happenings show for today. I do want to mention that the Homestead Starter Kit, which is a 7-webinar series, is available right now at NicoleSauce.com. And I put a link in the show notes. We have our first session next Wednesday, June 14th. It's going to be led by Michael Leonito, and it's how to successfully garden in your first year. I will also be there to tell you stories of things that have worked well for me and things that did not work well next Wednesday. So I'll share those with you, and that's all available over at NicoleSauce.com. Definitely grab yours. If you're a member, log into the membership portal first before you do that. I'm just saying. Anyway, if you like the show and want to support the work I'm doing here, you can do it in 2 ways. 1, get your coffee at hollerroast.com. 2, consider becoming a member. Just head on over to livingfreeintennessee.com to find out more. And if you're in the live stream, I am going to answer some questions. So hang in there. With that, guys, go out, make it a great week. Okay, I got 4 questions that we're going to answer. First one is Justin saying, where are we all today? I'm in Florida. I don't know where everybody else is. Okay. Will Bacool says, my yarrow that I bought at the Self-Reliance Festival is blooming. Awesome. Awesome. Packrat says, Nashville honeysuckle by the river matured to gold April 27th and has not returned. What a difference a few counties just, yeah, like ours just started blooming, I don't know, like a week ago, 2 weeks ago. So we, even if we're in the same state, we're not necessarily on the same cycle. My homestead is typically 5 degrees cooler than Nashville, except for in the winter, I'm typically a little warmer. So we have sort of like slightly less of a variance. And I think it's because we are not concrete. I think it's literally just the concrete impact of that. And then Michael Leonino says, which incubator are you using these days? You know what? It's the IncuView brand. And I just got it this year. I got rid of my other one that I had thinking I wasn't going to incubate eggs. So I gave it to another homesteader. And then I realized I was going to have to incubate eggs. So then I went on T-Spaz and I grabbed whatever Jack recommended because I figured that was the shortcut and I didn't have to do all the research because he's already done all the research. So I got that done and it is all set up and ready to go. And it did a great job. It comes with the egg rotator. It's very easy to program. And you can, set how many days you're incubating for, and you just have to keep the humidity for ducks between 55 and 65%. So tactical when you get home, check the humidity on the incubator. I see you're on the stream now. So it's very cool. You don't have to drink it in the morning only. What, coffee? Oh, yeah, true. Yeah, get your morning coffee from Holler. Yeah, I had 2 this morning, so I think I'm good. But we'll see. Anyway, guys, thanks for joining the live stream today. We'll be back next week with our usual shows. And don't forget, the Homesteading Starter Kit starts next week with Michael. How to grow your garden successfully. We'll see you soon. Later.